Thank you for coming out today, which is obviously an extremely important document for us. And Andy has been on me for about 12 months on, we've got to get this through so that we can actually explain to everybody what's going on and people can stop speculating. This should not be news to any one of you in any case, because it did come out a couple of months ago in a newspaper, which I found extremely funny actually. On the day it came out, it was almost borderline, how can we doing this to rugby? On the Monday, the traction for it being the wrong thing got a little bit less, and there were some positive points in it. On the Tuesday, it was the best thing that we've ever done, and on the Wednesday, we were shouted at, why haven't we done it earlier? But that's rugby, and that's the environment we live in. We are extremely proud of this document, and for a number of reasons, and you'll see the pathway it has gone through and why we are proud of what we're doing here. And in all fairness, I honestly do believe that we are the first federation to have done this to the extent that we've done it, and to have our timelines in place, and to have all of our targets in place, and actually have a strategic department that looks after this. So purely just to kick it off on which Andy has made a very interesting PowerPoint presentation. The strategic transformation plan, we had a charter which was written in Mervyn, in 2006. Now, a charter is always a very lively document, not. Guys, you write a charter and it's a document that sits on somebody's table and it's 200 pages. The first time I read it, I could actually not understand it, and to this day I don't understand that English. I am Afrikaans, but I struggled to understand the academic language that was used in it. And what happens to a document like that, it just lies around. It's not a living document. It's not being chased. It's not being implemented. And so we started on a journey a while back, and we said, listen, we've got to transfer this transformation plan, excuse the pun, into a strategic transformation implementation plan. And that's what we've done in this environment. We had to go through a lot of hoops, and we had to convince a lot of internal people on which direction to take. And after a lot of hard work, we are actually at the point where we can tell you what our intentions are and where we're heading with this. So, what was our motivation? Since '92, as it stands, part of our constitution. But before we get there, we sat down a couple of years ago and we got to a place where we decided, what do we want to be in South Africa? What is our vision? And all of you know that in terms of where we are, to be an icon of spiritual to everybody in this country. And everything we do, not only when the Springboks run onto the pitch, but when we deal with stakeholders, how we conduct our business, how we do our day-to-day operations. And we can only do that if we are the leaders in what we do, if we have standards of excellence, and to make South Africa the best rugby nation in the world, which is always going to be a challenge, but that's the only thing we strive for. We're not there for second place. We don't want to be second fiddle to anybody in the world. And for that reason, this has always been part of our constitution. Now, once again, like your constitution, like your charter, you can write something unless you live it, it actually doesn't make any difference. So we took our vision, we took our mission, and we said, what do we need to do? We need to write up a transformation plan that encompasses everything that is transformation. Now, unfortunately, all of you guys and almost everybody else in this country, when we talk about transformation, because of the past, because of the challenges, and probably because of the fact that the thing that makes the headlines of the front page of a newspaper is government, religion, some kind of a murder in rugby. We all focus on the numbers. And this is not about the numbers. This is about the transformation of rugby as a federation and as a sport in this country. Yes, the numbers are important. Yes, there is going to be numbers. Most likely you're only going to write about the numbers. But I would invite you to listen to what this is and to see what we are going to do so that in the end, the numbers are a non-issue for South Africa and for South African rugby. It's multi-dimensional, and we encompass all the dimensions that is needed for a federation to be successful. Most importantly, like anything else, you set objectives and you set goals, etc., etc. Unless you're able to measure them every year, every month, every quarter, they actually mean absolutely nothing. It's very specific, it's time-bound. It's not one of those charters, it's not one of those plans that live from here till the end of eternity. Yes, we're going to do this for the rest of our lives, but here we've set ourselves a very distinct target and a very definite target in terms of where we want to be at a certain time. Well, you can share it with us. There's an annual implementation plan. It's backed by SARA's own athlete management system. Once again, saying you're measuring it is one thing. Giving people the tools and the skills and the environment to be able to measure it in an easy way and to audit it in a very easy way. We've developed a program footprint. We believe it is so good that every federation in the country should actually use it. They just need to pay it for us for it. But we've done our own performance analysis software system, Stratus. We are not reliant on the All Blacks and Australians and England or any of those programs anymore. We can deliver our own programs through our own auditing systems. And we can now actually track a player from the cradle to the grave, which is very important. When you focus on high performance, you need to understand what you're dealing with, and you need to constantly communicate and track players throughout the system, but also track each and every other dimension of what is transformation. So, how have we changed? Guys, in all fairness, you know, people say we're not transformed, we're not changing rugby on any level. If you look at that picture at the top there, that's 1992. And, sorry, I'm too fast here. If you look at the picture at the top there, that's 1992. Look at that team, look at that crowd at the back. That's last year. That's last year. People telling me we have not transformed in terms of our crowd, in terms of our support, in terms of our team. What was the likelihood of that happening in most of those people's minds in 1992? We've come a long way. Yes, we're not there yet, but please don't tell me we haven't done anything. Please don't tell me we have not been successful in putting some form of transformation into this country. There's been a lot of change. And yes, we're going to keep on changing, and we hope to do that through this plan that we have here. In terms of governance, when people talk about federations and what shape federations are, there's all these things about how badly federations are run, etc., etc. Guys, I invite any of you to any of these systems. Our AGM is always open. We've got all of the committees in place in terms of King 3. We run all of those committees on an evaluation basis. They've got their objectives, they self-evaluate, they get evaluated from outside. All of our governance structures are there exactly like it would be for any other company. You've got the General Council, which is the shareholders effectively. Yes, there's some issues in terms of how the decision making is taken there and how the votes are spread there, but we've got a shareholders meeting. We've got an executive that is mandated. That don't meet every day, that meet like a board 6 times a year. You know, we've got all of the subcommittees, we've got audits, both internal audit through KPMG and external audit by PwC. We've had an unqualified audit for the past 4 years, and we show a profit every year. No, we're not in the game to make money. Yes, we need to make enough money so that we can actually run the game of rugby. But in this environment, it's no use we potting up 100 and 200 and 300 million. We'd rather use that money, push it back into the unions and spend it. How we spend it is the question you should ask. And are we spending it correctly? Yes, those are the questions that are fair questions. The fact of the matter is that we're there in terms of our governance and how we structure. You know, we're not transformed at the top. We've had a black president for the last 17 years. You know, we've taken our BE status from a level 7 to level 5. Our biggest challenge here lies in the fact that there's 2 dimensions within BE that we don't qualify. Ownership. We're not owned by anybody. We're owned by all of the federations. So we score almost 0 on that. And then we disperse our broadcasting money to unions. They don't qualify. So we give away 35% of our money, which is not deemed to be BE level on any case. So we've moved it from 7 to 5. We've got a department that's going to look at everything across the board in terms of transformation of the organization. And the 2 gentlemen that are responsible for us here, Mervyn and Kaya, and they've got to get us down to the lower levels so that we can get to the lowest level we can within the dimensions that we actually qualify for. Our exco is 75% black. Yet, I always read in the papers that decisions are made by an exco that is not transformed. Headquarters staff, when I got there, we were a 60-40% split. It's now exactly the other way around in terms of the office staff of SARA. And on the field, the demographics had changed. Have we gotten to where we want to be? No, we haven't. but we're progressing. We've had dips, we've had times when it's not been great, but we're building towards what should be the full transformation of all of our teams as well. We've had our first black coats, and at some stage, you know, we had all of the teams were black coaches. The record Springbok try scorer is black. Now this might sound iffy. The reality is people tend to just pass over all of these things, you know, for the benefit of what is their own agenda. SARA's Player of the Year has been won by black players on 7 occasions. We spent about $500 million on 92 on development, and these are not the development in the bigger sense. This is very specifically towards the lower end of development and not developing the game in the broader sense. Transformation has always been an agenda. Yes, it's come to the fore through a number of reasons, but it's always been there. It is now the #1 agenda item in our executive. We've got a transformation committee, and we're driving that really hard. And the national audit of our schools, which is a very recent audit, 64% of our primary school players are black, 65% of our high school players are black, and 80% of our club players are black, as you can see from our Community Cup at the moment. Community Cup, unbelievable tournament that is working for us on every level. Not a commercial tournament. It's not a tournament for the broadcasters or anything else. Yet they broadcast it. But that's a tournament as an aspirational platform for all of our communities and all of our clubs, so that they have to play something for. And watch the space in terms of what is going to happen with that cup and future competitions. And nationally, 84% of our under-18 South Africans are black Africans. So if you look at that demographic, we're there and thereabouts in terms of where we are with the players. And how are we going to deliver rugby's future through this transformation plan? And I'm going to get to all of these. But we had a sports or a transformation sport in Durban, which is rugby related, in 2012. But this was at the back end of something happening on a national level. There was a couple of meetings that took place, of which the biggest one was in Rustenburg in November 2011, where all of the sports federations within SASCOC sat together and they reaffirmed the principle of quotas in sport. I can actually recall that the Minister of Sport said he did not want it, and he was outvoted by all of the federations at that meeting. In May 2012, we adopted the new National Sports Plan as the basis for transformation operational plan. In August 2012, we rolled out our Coca-Cola Schools of Excellence program for top black rugby playing schools as a first step towards where we're going in terms of our transformation. We had a transformation in Durban. We had the Minister of Sport there, we had SASCOC there, we had MECs there, we had all of our presidents there, all of our CEOs. And over a 2-day period, and a number of you were there as well, we went through all of the different issues in terms of transformation, and Mervyn started building, which was a transformation implementation plan on the back end of the groupings over there. And at the end of that, there was a transformation charter pledge that was signed. And this is the pledge, and I think if guys have seen it before, that is just on the detail of it. And then, subsequent to that, we've got 4 academies specifically designed fast-track black players in EP, Border, Boland, and SVD. Why only 4? We made an application for funding, and we only got funding for 4. We actually had an application for 8, which was going to be the 8 unions that were currently at that stage not part of the top 5 unions playing in Super Rugby, to obviously fast-track that program. We only got funding for 4. But as it stands, there's an academy almost in every union at the moment. January 2013 to January 2014, 2 rounds of national transformation audits are held with all 14 sovereign provinces to produce the data to workshop the draft transformation strategy. Literally what we went through is guys, there's a dimensions, and there's 6 of them, and all of them have got KPIs. And in each and every one of them, we went across the country, each and every union, twice, explained everything to them, started with the audit process, followed that up, started with the implementation, and starting with the broader plan on how we're going to deliver this successfully. Was done in person each and every time by Mervyn Green and his team. January 2013, Footprint database program begins to capture elite player data from under 16 upwards and take the subjectivity out of a black player assessment. Because there's always these rumors, there's always these perceptions, all this subjectivity on players. It's very simple. The program is so detailed, it is so enhanced that there's no place for perception. It's simply results. Simple as that. You either perform or you don't perform. And nobody can come in with their subjectivity. Yes, there's always a place for a gut feel on a coach, on a player, and that's never going to change. But this is a scientific based and helps us in that process. January 2013, we added the Get Into Rugby to the current programs that we're running already. We've got an excellent program with TAG. Stuart is over here. Now, it's all about introducing the game at grassroots levels. That's the step, just the step before we actually get to the point where they start tackling each other and the more physical part of the game. SARU established a training camp in EP for Springbok Women's Sevens team. First one there. That is the building process. We look at them playing in the series at the moment. Guys, it's a massive step up for that team. They've come from always nowhere into an EP high-performance environment. They're now actually at SAS together. It's going to take them a year, maybe a year and a half to be competitive on that series. But as it stands, we've moved from 17th in the world to 9th. So we're getting there. First country to actually do that within a high-performance environment. Yes, the RFU has got a similar program. They do it on a sporadic basis. They come together for 2 months and go away, etc., etc. In 2013, we reintroduced quotas into the Vodacom Cup. Simply what happened in the Vodacom Cup is we had Super Rugby, and the Super Rugby groups became bigger and bigger and bigger, and guys had to be kept fit. And the initial goal and objective we had with Vodacom got sidelined, and we had to reintroduce those to get back to the Vodacom Cup. Caused a big hoo-ha. To us, it was magic to our ears because it serves all of our strategic objectives. Data from the opening round of audit supplied by the EPG report. We all went to SASCOC, and we sat there with the 4 other federations that are together with us in this EPD initial audit, and the first data was produced. November 2013, part of our transformation, part of what we're doing in transformation rugby as a whole, we wrote our own administrative training program. One of your fellow mates, Tank Lanning, was involved in that. I don't know whether that lifts or reduces the quality of the product, but Cathsita saw that as a good product, and we're still rolling that out, and it's actually accredited within the Cathsita, and it's called Clubwise. December 2013, SAREX introduces quotas to the Salsi Community Cup. To enforce everybody within that system. Guys, if you look at the TV, we don't really have to introduce anything on that level. I mean, that program is transformed. And then we've got good news stories. I mean, this guy is a National Park Ranger club manager at Horner Club by Rugby Club. Goes 90 kilometers down a dirt road to be clubwised. There's some good news stories and what we do and where we're taking it. An unbelievable program. April 2014, Department of Sports and Recreation issued the first operation report of the eminent persons grouping of the 5 federations. Assessed and Transformation Rugby is the only one to reach the good category. We got more than 70%. So the others, for your reference, netball, cricket, soccer, athletics. Those are the other federations. We're the only one that got the good category rating. June 2014, we showed a draft to SASCOC. This draft, and they were impressed, and they put out that press release, which all of you got. In any case, at that stage, December 2014, the Strategic Transformation Plan is passed by the SARU General Council. And already we've seen changes. Delivering Rugby's future, black representation by competition. Now we're getting to the numbers component. This was the trend. This was the trend. And all of these things, like anything else, the one causes the other. So if you've got no black players playing in Vodacom, if you've got no black players playing in the Currie Cup and the Vodacom Cup or Super Rugby, Heineken's got no black players to select. It's a very simple equation. So this was the trend. This is where we are at the moment. And there's one glaring issue here. Guys, we've done better in Vodacom Cup. We've done a lot better in the Currie Cup. Super Rugby is doing better. The Springboks went down. And that's why we've got to chase all of these others. Unless we increase the black players within the Vodacom Super Rugby, within Vodacom and Currie Cup, there's no players for Heineken to select. And that's what we're driving at the moment from a player's point of view in the transformation process. So what is the strategic transformation plan? It's about demographic representation to change SARU's demographic profile at provincial and national level on and off the field of play. This is actually the day we signed the Indaba and Monte Cassino. Am I not there?
Yeah.
No wonder it's a good plan. I wasn't part of it. Oh yeah, there I am. Yes, I see you made it to it on it as well. So, access to the game to ensure rugby is accessible to all who wish to participate, including women, disabled persons, and people in rural areas. Massive thing. We need to give access to the game. One of our major issues is we don't have control over schools. Schools falls within the Department of Education, not within the Department of Sports and Recreation. We can go to the Minister of Sport and talk about schools programs as long as we want. You know who we need to talk to? We need to talk to the headmaster of Kasselsvlei. The headmaster of Paul Jim. You don't have to talk to him, they're good already. You know, you need to talk to any headmaster. Those are the guys that are giving us access to the schools. It's the Department of Education. Now, one of our major struggles is we can't test for any substance abuse on school level, because there's 8 large substance you're allowed to test within the Department of Education and the Education Act. None of those are actually applied to us. So we need to work on this. So we go through our own programs and we use this, and we use all the tools that are out there. This is Get Into Rugby, this is TAG, this is all of the grassroots elements to get as many people access to rugby. And we've got a very holistic approach about this. In the first instance, what we want is to introduce people to sport, just activity. If you recall, all sport was taken out of school a couple of years ago. We just want them to be active. Then hopefully, when they start getting active and they get introduced to rugby, they will choose rugby as their preferred sport. And this is such an easy thing to do, because within the new programs, you can do this on tarmac, cement, the worst piece of grass you've ever seen, or the most beautiful piece of turf you've ever seen. And this is a massive program that is rolled out into all of the unions. We've had a couple of pilot studies, and we're now going to all of the unions across the board. And the detail of that, you can discuss in length with Mervyn, who is the owner of this. Skills and capacity development to create development pathways for players, coaches, referees, and administrators to improve productivity and performance levels. Now, guys, what are we talking here? Long-term player development. There's an overall plan designed by SASCOC and the Department of Sports and Recreation. We have signed, we're part of that plan. It means we've got the long-term player development of a player. That's why we went to wrote on all the softwares. It's no use we subscribe to a plan with SASCOC and the Department of Sports and Rec, and we can't track it, we can't trace it, and we've got no idea where the people are. We are in that structure now. We already control a lot more than we did 3 or 4 years ago. Guys, if you look at the under-20 team, we can probably select the under-20 team of 4 years now out of the under-16s, because we're tracking them already. There's no Craven Week teams that are an SA school team that are now selected without us actually knowing who the guys are that are going to come through in that structure. That's why the under-20s are performing, because we took control at the under-16 level. We take control of the under-16 camps, we take control of the under-18 camps, and we track a player from the beginning to the end. And through this, everything is online. Everything is online. And how do we do that? We make it a simple process so that the guy can access it through the phone. So computers, laptops, those facilities are very difficult. Everybody in this country has got a phone, has got access to a phone, and that's the way we do it. We obviously do it in hard copy. We do the same for coaches. Our referees program has worked excellently, and we're busy with the administrators program, and we'll roll this out. But this is across the board. This is in every union. This is in every subcommittee in every union. It's in their corporate governance. It's in their excos, etc. So it's about creating the skills and the capability. Because in fairness, guys, what happened in 1995 when we turned professional? Everybody that was in the business, by default, became the administrators. With no disrespect on any level, but neither the unions nor South African Rugby did anything to upskill those individuals. We just left them to their own. So we've got to do something. We've got to change it on every level. And we've got to start at the bottom. That's why we do club-wise. If our clubs are administrated correctly, those guys will become the elected officials in the unions, or will become the employed officials in the unions, and from there they will become either the elected or the employed officials within its SA Rugby. So you've got to start from the bottom up. Performance, to deliver competitive and world-class performances on and off the field of play by focusing on quality and application of the principle of merit. Guys, off the field, I've got no qualms. We are a different federation from where we were. We do things better. Yes, we make mistakes. We all make mistakes. Stuff is always going to go through the cracks. But from a governance point of view, from being on time, being at the right place, doing everything correctly in terms of administrative processes, of rolling out of competition structures, of all of what we should do within that environment, we are doing it correctly. And it's scary to see the level of planning that goes into national teams, that goes into competitions, that goes into everything that is surrounded with off-the-field issues. And on the field, we've got the best coaching people in our system at the moment. I get tired of reading the planning documents on the Springboks and on the under-20s and the SA schools and all of those things. I get tired of reading all of the detail of the blueprints on how we're going to play rugby, on the coaching systems that we're going out. We're on the right track. We just need to win, because in this country, unfortunately, there's only one thing. We can basically stuff up and nobody would really care if the Springboks are winning every game. That's the reality of it. We don't want to live that way, and we ensure that everything off the field is correct, because we believe games are won in offices, not on the pitch. If the office is correct, the pitch will follow. Community development and social initiatives. Guys, we've rolled out our box for books. You know, our biggest CSI program is obviously in conjunction with the Chris Berger, Pedro Jackson, and with that, the Box Mart, making rugby a safer sport in this country, absolutely essential. With all of the perceptions that are out there on rugby and how brutal the game is, etc., it's a necessity, or else the moms and the dads won't allow their kids to play rugby anymore. And then we've got a number of other initiatives in terms of disadvantaged people through our clothing, our kit, etc. And this is run through Pastor Kaya there, and on the box for books we've done exceptionally well. And it's one of the dimensions that everybody's got to ride on. Corporate governance, guys, each and every one. We've made constitutional changes. We are busy making constitutional changes to give us greater and better access to what is the unions out there. Because we believe our corporate governance at headquarters are pretty much on track at the moment, and yes, we can get better and better and better. The next step and the next level is now to assist our unions, not that their governance is not there, but to make theirs better. To ensure that the unions and South African rugby is aligned in how we operate, how we deal with corporate governance, and to ensure that everything within that environment looks better. We're talking about excos, we're looking at employment, we're talking about subcommittees, about documentation, getting AGMs done correctly, notice periods, all of the normal things around corporate governance. And then obviously being good corporate citizens along with the CSI program and that. So those are the 6 dimensions. So what have we done? Within those 6 dimensions, there's a lot of KPIs. And guys, I mean, we can bore you with the detail of the KPIs, but you've all read it on the document that went out, that draft, which is pretty close to the final document in any case. So we've got 12 KPIs within the demographics. We've got 15 in skills and capability development, 15 in performance, 9 in community development, social access to the game, 11 in governance. And there are measurables. And these are measured every day through a very simple online system that we have. They populate it, we audit it. In terms of all of these programs, there's funding behind it, we roll out that funding. That funding is, you won't get your funding unless your applications is correct, all of your reports is correct, and the audit is done. So instead of handing out money, having no measurables, having no objectives, in terms of what we do, each and every one of them is down to the last T and detail. And it's an unbelievable program that we're utilizing there. But as you can see, the eventual numbers on the pitch is 2 of these KPIs, guys. 2. There's 71 KPIs on terms of how we're going to transform this organization further than where we are at the moment. This is just a simple example from that program that we're using, and here you can see some successes already and where we're going in terms of for instance, primary school trends. And this gets monitored by that department. Is it achievable? Is it achievable in terms of what we want to do? And people look at those numbers and they say, listen, how are you guys ever going to get to this? So we're not completely stupid in what we do. So we obviously plan fairly well on where we want to go and what is achievable within our environment. We've already got 80% black representation in our SARU academies. We're busy talking on a further enhancement of our academies across the country, and that's the goals that we set ourselves. So we've done that. 20,000 new players introduced annually. Did that last year. I think it's 23,000 on that base. Increased black participation at the executive on-board level to 50% by 2019. So in SARU, that's a forgotten stat. It's not even important. Done that a long time ago. It's now ensuring. Remember, everything that we're talking about here has got to go through to the unions as well. We're going to push this through to all of the unions. So it's now about getting this done in all of the unions. So a number of unions are way past that number already, but getting that to take away the perceptions that there are in terms of the control of rugby and where the control of rugby lies. So that's achieved already. Increased black representation at the ABSA curricular level to 50% by 2019. Last year, Western Province was averaging 40% black representation, the Currie Cup champions, just to remind all of you. And in the final, they had 46% representation. We're almost there, guys. We've got till 2019 to get there. Got no issues that we'll get to that level. Sorry, Andy, I should have given you a picture earlier. So, transformation, as you can see, yes, it's about the numbers, but it's more than the numbers. It's about transforming this organization. And I look at you guys sitting around here, and I get the updates on what most of you are writing. And most of the elements that all of you have got issues with are contained in this. It's about who makes the decisions. It's about proper representation of the people that makes the decisions. It's about upskilling. It's about moving the paradigms. It's about getting the people in the right places at the right unions and making sure that we can actually transform this organization further than we've done already. And that's the important thing to us. We've got a dedicated department that will now look after this on a daily basis. And if you ask me why haven't we been so successful up until that may be one of the reasons. We've got one department that looks at this, not looks at the numbers that are happening on the pitch on every Saturday. Says, what are we doing in terms of governance? What are we doing in terms of procurement? What are we doing in terms of upskilling? What are we doing about grassroots? Daily basis, no other job. That's all they've got to do. I worry what they're going to do after 2 years when everything is in place and there's no targets anymore. Probably set new targets and maintain the position that we are. But that's where we are. The individual is Mervyn, for anyone, if you worry, no more knowledgeable in terms of transformation. The father of that plan along with the rest of the unions. So that's where we are. Guys, we're extremely proud of this. We're a federation. We know what we need to do. We know where we're going. We're not worried about the direction we're going. We're actually proud that we have some very clear objectives for us in 2019. And we're pretty sure that we're going to hit them by 2019. And in many instances, we've done it already.